Good evening, everyone. So for today's citation, I will be joined by the Human Resource Manager, Ms. Tanya Simitz, since we are both here to promote and support what SPM is doing. So the Honorable Minister, Mr. Desmond McKenzie, Minister Floyd Green, mayors, members of the NSWMA Board of Directors, and our fellow colleagues, good evening to you. Today, I was given the task, and we're gathered here to celebrate and honor our long-serving and dedicated employees, or for retirees in particular. Seeing them here today proves and shows us that loyalty and a strong sense of dedication to the task ahead is very critical to the success of this organization, and for that, I want you to give them a round of applause. SPM Waste Management Limited is very fortunate to have staff members whose many years of dedication, commitment, and loyalty have been instrumental in the respect that the company has received thus far. It is now time to return this loyalty, and for such, we are actually having this banquet here. To the awardees, it has been a long journey filled with both challenges and opportunities, and we appreciate your commitment and your endurance. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution to SPM Waste Management and to the wider extension, the NSWMA family, to develop this region and to transform it into what it is today. This company will never forget what a wonderful job you have actually done, and you continue to do to the SPM family. It is a good thing to recognize and honor people for their good work while they are still alive, right? Good. And that is what we're here to do today, not to give you a statue or celebrate you after you have passed, but to give it to you now. Congratulations to those that have been receiving the awards today, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors and all the very best from NSWMA and the MPM family. Well, Ms. Simit and I will be reading, as we said before, the citation for 4 retirees. So Ms. Simit will begin, and then we'll continue thereafter.
The first retiree is Adolphus Johnston. He joined the organization on March 16, 2002. Mr. Johnston was an ardent worker for the company for over 18 years in the capacity of general worker assigned to the Myersville disposal site in the parish of St. Elizabeth. As the disposal site is located in a remote location, Mr. Johnston took on many roles. He executed the functions of tally clerk, landfill attendant, and at times, watchman for the site. Mr. Johnston even took on the role of landfill supervisor or landfill manager at times, and would be assigned duty, and he would actually assign duties to his colleagues and ensure that the trucks were following instructions. There was an incident some time ago when Myersville had a fire. The residents of the neighboring community called Mr. Johnston, and as they thought he was the man in charge. He was always at work, even during the hurricane. The last hurricane that we experienced, Mr. Johnston went to work and was stranded on the landfill. This is dedication. He has exceeded expectations and gone above and beyond the call of duty at work. Mr. Johnston, MPM, realizes that our employees, SPM, I'm so used to calling all of the different regions. So SPM realizes that our employees are our greatest assets, and we are delighted to honor your dedicated service and commitment to this organization. Today, we celebrate with you and your individual contribution to our success. It is with pride and admiration that we congratulate and award you this evening. Mr. Johnson, can you come and stand right here, please? You can just stand. We now move on to Mr. Cleveland Miller.
All right, afternoon again. Mr. Cleveland Miller has been employed to the SPM Waste Management Limited since 2003 in the capacity of sanitation worker. Mr. Miller's past supervisor, Mr. Garrett Scott, described him as a diligent and dedicated worker with a quiet disposition. There is no doubt that Mr. Miller loved his job, and we're thankful for that, sir. As even when he was ill, he made every effort to be at work. You see, Mr. Miller is asthmatic, a condition that I have as well, so. And several times after experiencing an attack, he would report for duty. There were countless occasions when his supervisors had to remove him from the truck and take him to see the medical attention. He would call his supervisor immediately after coming out of the hospital and said he's ready to resume duty. Mr. Miller is a happy and jovial man. He has always tried to lighten the mood for his crew members and his fellow colleagues. Mr. Miller, for your loyalty and dedication to your company and your customers, has not gone unnoticed and is greatly appreciated. We all admire your efforts, and we thank you for being a valuable member of the SPM team for over 16 years. There's a saying that goes, if there's any true measure of a man, is than what he is, if what he does. Then what he does, is by what he gives. And we thank you for the service that you have actually given to SPM Waste Management Limited. We ask you to accept the award that will be presented by the Honorable Minister as a token of our appreciation for the service that you have given.
Mr. Besrick Windet. He joined the organization on August 1, 1999. Mr. Beswick, affectionately called Weapon, has been employed to the region just 6 months shy of 20 years. Mr. Windet is our Mr. Congeniality. He's loyal to his team and a positive role model for our younger employees. He is that person that we would assign to assist with orientation of our new employees, as he knew the ropes. Mr. Windet took great pride in himself and was called Bag Pan Back by crew members as he refused to put his bag on the truck as he did not want it to get dirty. Mr. Windet perfectly exemplified the standards of a superb worker. We applaud the determination and effort you have demonstrated during your time with us, and we truly appreciate your dedication. Mr. Windet, AKA Weapon, AKA Bag Pan Back, AKA Mr. Neat and Tidy, AKA Everfresh. Thank you for all of the motivation and encouragement you have given throughout the years. May you continue to aspire us for many years to come.
Wow. Mr. Thomas Robinson. Mr. Robinson has been employed to SPM Waste Management Limited. Can we just please calm down in terms of the noise? It's very important that we recognize persons who have been here, who have done what we have not done, and something that I'm not sure I'm able to do, which is to work somewhere for 15 plus years. So I just want you guys to just take the time, be quiet, and just, as we read their citation, okay? Persons in the back? Okay, excellent. So Mr. Thomas Robinson has been to SPM Waste Management Limited in the capacity as sanitation worker since January 2007. Mr. Howard Bennett, the zonal monitor, describes Mr. Thomas Robinson as a dedicated, hardworking, respectful, and kind-hearted individual. A few months before he proceeded on retirement, he was on his way to work on a bicycle when a pack of dogs attacked him, leaving several bites. He was so determined that he was going to work that he called the supervisor and told him, "Bossy, them bite me, but me still a come work." He's a wonderful customer service representative for SPM in dealing with commercial and residential clients. His passion and work ethics are truly admirable, and he has left an indelible mark, thus earning him the nickname Jawbone. Mr. Jawbone, a true measure of a man is in the lives he touched, and we really appreciate the fact that you have touched our commercial clients and our residential clients the way that you have done over the years. We are proud to have you as a part of the SPM family. Loyalty and dedicated employees like you are the foundation to any successful company. Thank you for your wonderful years of service, and we really, really appreciate you. Thank you, sir.
We now invite the Mayor, Honorable Minister Mackenzie. Sorry about that. You have made an sorry. What's up with that word? We need to take that word from the dictionary.
Intelligible. Mr. Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to once again give our retirees a warm round hand.
We are now about to start the presentation of the departmental awards, and I know that many of you, your minds are wondering who will be receiving these awards tonight. For those of you who will be recognized, we just want to thank you and congratulate you. And for those of you who are not being recognized tonight, we ask you to push harder so that next year, because I know this will be an annual event, you also will receive an award. So at this time, I'd like to welcome to announce the honorees, my beautiful co-host, Ms. Shauna Guthrie. Please give her a warm welcome.
I now ask Mr. Andrew McRae to join me on stage. We are going to be doing the awards for over 15 years for the administration, and then we will do for the drivers. Mr. Sheldon Smith, you're up next for the drivers, so don't go too far. The first person for the over 15 years, put your hands together as we welcome Miss Barbara Crawford she's the commercial assistant. One more round of applause for commercial. Let's keep it going. Next we have Elaine Charlot, our frugal accountant. Next we have Mr. Garrett Scott, zonal monitor. Come on, Mr. Scott, keep it going. Next we have Mr. Robert Johnson, who I want to moonwalk up here. Mr. Johnson is not here. He's still in rehearsal. Mr. Scott, can you collect on his behalf? Do you mind? All right, so there we have for the over 15 years for the admin staff. Thank you, Mr. McRae. Mr. Sheldon Smith. My favorite SPM person, Mr. Smith. For the driver, the first driver with over 15 years, Mr. Christopher Beckford, and he's from the beautiful parish of St. Bess, St. Elizabeth. The ever dapper Mr. Beckford. Again from St. Elizabeth, Mr. Coleman Daly. Mr. Daly. Oh, sorry, Coleman David. Coleman Daly, sorry. I just had on my St. Elizabeth accent. And right here in Manchester, Mr. Garfield Smith. Mr. Smith. And back to St. Elizabeth, Mr. Linval Lawson. Mr. Lawson. My paper says the best parish, St. Elizabeth. It's actually Clarendon. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Lawson. Apologies. And the last driver for over 15 years, Mr. Who can tell me? It's not her. It's him? All right then, well, let us welcome Mr. Maurice Daly. He's not here? All right. We will ask the HR manager to collect on his behalf. Yes, ma'am, we want a female in the picture. All right, I now hand over to my co-host.
Thank you, Shauna. Moving right along to the sanitation and general workers. And for this, the presentation will be made by our regional operations manager, Mr. Edward Muir. Let's welcome him, ladies and gentlemen. So the sanitation and general workers who have been with this company for over 15 years, we will start off with one of the retirees, Mr. Adolphus Johnson. Let's welcome him, ladies and gentlemen. No. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Moving along, we want to bring on stage Mr. Alfred White. Mr. White, let's welcome him, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep the applause going. And Mr. White is followed by Alvin Wine, who is a tally clerk. Let's welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Wine. And Mr. Wine is followed by Anna Frey, route supervisor. Let's welcome her. And as my able regional operations manager is instructing me to move it along. Miss Frey will be followed by Anthony Palmer, sanitation worker. Mr. Palmer. And Mr. Palmer is followed by Beresford White, sanitation worker. Beresford White. And Mr. White is followed by Beswick Windet, one of the other retirees. Mr. Windet is followed by Cleveland Miller, one of the other retirees. And Mr. Miller is followed by Courtney Chung, sanitation worker. Let's hear it for Mr. Chung. And Mr. Chung is followed by Mr. Dennis Campbell, another sanitation worker. Let's hear it for him, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't seem Mr. Campbell is here, so we'll move right along to Mr. Dwayne Brooks, sanitation worker. And Mr. Brooks is followed by Eugenia Pitter, sweeper. Let's keep the applause going, ladies and gentlemen. Mrs. Pitter is followed by Everton Salomon, route supervisor. Let's hear it for him, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Solomon. And Mr. Solomon is followed by Frank Windet, sanitation worker. Let's hear it for Mr. Windet, Frank Windet. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Windet is followed by George Henry Webb, sanitation worker. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Henry Webb is followed by Harold Mitchell, sanitation worker. And following Mr. Mitchell, we have Mr. Jerome Harrison, sanitation worker.
Happy birthday to John, our happy birthday, John. You know the thing, SPM ballers, big up yourself, see? You know the thing, oh. See?
Let's hear it for Mr. Jerome Harrison, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Harrison is followed by Keithlyn Williams. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's put those hands together, man. We must show appreciation. Come on. And Mr. Williams will be followed by Mr. Leighton Linton. Let's hear it for Mr. Linton. Is Mr. Linton here? He's not here? Okay, so we'll invite to the platform, to the stage area, Mr. Lester Gale, route supervisor. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen. Not here? All right, Mr. Gale is not here. So we'll bring on Loretta Turnbull, Route Supervisor. Somebody gave false information, man. Come on. Loretta Turnbull, Route Supervisor. And Ms. Turnbull is followed by Merrick Parchment, sanitation worker. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen. Merrick Parchment. And Mr. Parchment is followed by Monica Parker, general worker. Monica Parker. And Miss Parker is followed by Nicholas Suarez. He made it very clear earlier that even though his name is spelled S-O-A-R-E-S, it is not Soares. He wanted to be called by his proper name, Nicholas Suarez. Let's hear it for him, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Suarez is followed by Norman Callahan. Norman Callahan, sanitation worker. Mr. Callahan, let's hear it for him. And Mr. Callahan is followed by Omar Montague. Let's hear it for Omar Montague. And Mr. Montague is followed by Omar Saunders. Omar Montague, who is followed by Omar Saunders. Let's hear it for them, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. Thank you, Mr. Montague. Mr. Saunders, your time. Oral Hanchard, another sanitation worker. Oral Hanchard, let's hear it. And Mr. Hanchard is followed by Roy Farquharson. Let's hear it for Roy Farquharson. Roy Farquharson. Thank you. And Mr. Farquharson is followed by Sherman Barrett. Let's hear it for Sherman Barrett, ladies and gentlemen. Sherman Barrett. I'm going to ask the awardees to walk at the side. When you're coming for your award, just walk to the side. And Mr. Barrett is followed by Thomas Finnegan. Let's hear it for Thomas Finnegan, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Finnegan is followed by Francis Booth. Mr. Booth, sanitation worker. And finally, for the 15 years of service awards, we will bring Louis Smith, another sanitation worker. Let's hear it for Mr. Booth and Mr. Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for those awardees. Let's give them a warm, 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 warm. Sean, you said let's go to all that. All right. Yeah. It's not on the list. Keeble Hall. Keeble Hall. Keeble Hall. Is Mr. Hall here? Huh? He's not here? Okay.